Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
Welcome back to Building Great Sales Teams, y'all. We've got another roofing guest in the house today. We've got Sean Becker. He's the owner of Becker Roofing and Exteriors. He literally wrote the book on roofing. He's the author of Roofs That Last. He's an expert in commercial roofing, residential roofing, water restoration, insurance, claims, and consulting. And Sean, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Doug, for having me. I feel really honored. I just heard about your show not too long ago, started following you kind of hard, and then I started listening to it, and I was like, man, this is he's got a great production, and he talks to cool people. So I was honored to be like, when he was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I was like, yes. Yes.
I think Jessica Gruber is the one that recommended that you be on the podcast. And because I was asking her, as we do in Success Champions Networking, we have these ask, and that week it was guests for the podcast, especially around roofing. I've had a lot of recent clients around roofing, and it's been a hot topic on the podcast. So having you on is fantastic. And as writing a book is, so many people are experts in their field and don't write the book like you did. And so somebody that's actually taking the time to do that and put themselves out there like that is more than welcome on my show at any given time. So I got to ask you, we're definitely going to talk about the book later, but I got to ask you, one of the things that you said in your profile is you sold $1 million deal. What is that like?
So I've sold a couple $1 million deals. Some of them haven't always started out at $1 million. But recently I got to sign one that was over $1 million on the contract, and it feels awesome. I gotta say, it feels awesome. Typically $1 million contracts are not like a lot of the residential claims that we work. There's a lot of front end work on commercial stuff. So big thing that a lot of residential guys don't do a lot of as much as commercial guys is the file setup and preparing the file for the first adjusters meeting and having the numbers dialed in where you want to settle this thing within 60 days if you can. And then having so it's fun, but it's like hurry up and wait. Like the one that I signed this month, I've been working on it for 4 months. This is a very fast $1 million contract. For commercial claims, I would say a lot of them are 1 year, 2 years, unless it's the roof was completely ripped off. A lot of these hail damage claims, the insurance companies don't just get out and write their check right off the bat. You got to hit them with a lot of evidence, and to be honest, they started off at like 300,000 or 400,000, and we got the ball moved to north of 1.2 million.
Wow!
And we signed for $1 million worth of the work, and it's like a grand slam on this one. I honestly love it because the property owner's loving it as well. He's doing more work than what the insurance prescribed, and it's really going to benefit his property. He wants to get more value out of the property, and there's a lot of things like AC units that have been causing a big maintenance issue for him. And with this claim, he's able to take care of 75 AC units on the property that need replacing. And so we do roofing, but most of my large commercial losses, the roofing isn't always the biggest ticket item. The AC units, the siding, and a lot of the accessory things that you don't think about add up sometimes more than the roofing. I've had multiple claims where the AC units trump the roofing cost. So it's cool. It definitely feels good, but then there's always a lot of stress with big ticket items,
Oh yeah.
and I enjoy them because they're complex and they're a long-term project. And over the years, as you sell roofs over long periods of time, so you start in shingles and kind of smaller jobs, and then you work your way into bigger jobs, more complex jobs. Then the smaller jobs don't excite you as much as the bigger jobs do. So it's kind of like your excitement becomes bigger jobs in the future, and attracting the owners of those buildings
Hmm.
becomes fun on how you can attract them, and how you can teach your team to attract them, what you need to do to solicit them. It's a totally different ball game than residential.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Like everything is just at a different level, you know, whether like you're talking about the actual claim itself, but that's one thing I'm curious about is, and then you talked about teaching your team to attract them too. How are you teaching your team to attract $1 million deals?
So there's ways that you can attract $1 million deals. It's basically building your company up to support $1 million deal.
Okay.
You got to have the like kind of the insurance coverage, but then also you need to have people that can run repairs on these big properties and do some of the front end estimating. There's a lot of estimating in the front end that cost a lot of money on. It's kind of like payroll cost, expert time cost, and I would say that that's a big difference of commercial than residential. You're kind of putting a lot of the efforts up front.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's a number of differences that I've seen being a residential roofer for so long and then kind of making the switch to commercial roofing. And what they're like some of the biggest differences that I've noticed that are pretty cool are the competition level at commercial is a lot lower than you expect.
Yeah,
The
you're putting yourself
um,
in a different class for sure.
you're When you're a residential roofer, you might have 10 guys knock behind you for that same roof.
Yeah.
And it could be 45 guys. I don't know. It depends on how popular the storm is.
Hmm.
But when you're a commercial roofer, not a lot of people knock after you. You're normally competing with maybe two or three other guys. And so it's more of a couple other guys and who do you how many of those apartments can you go see so that you have an odds of winning, one out of every five that you go look at.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was checking out your website and sharing it with the people that are watching on YouTube and kind of showing them how detailed you guys are and you're advertising that, and which I would imagine, if I'm an apartment complex owner or a building owner and I'm about to make this, half a million to seven figure purchase. And yeah, I'm hoping that my insurance is going to cover most of it, but I'm going to do my research. It's not just like you're going to come and knock on my property management door or something like that. And so when it comes to the lead generation piece, are you creating those conversations through organizations, social media, or are you physically going and knocking on the properties?
So I'm a fan of doing a lot of different marketing
Okay.
tactics. I believe almost all of it works as long as you keep consistent with it and you keep putting enough into the marketing budget for that task.
Hmm.
My lead generation, that's pretty awesome. I gotta say the book sets you apart. Books do not, it's not like leaving a flyer behind at an office. You leave a book, it's a present for the owner of the company. It's something that gets
I
put up
like
on
that.
the shelf. If it doesn't get put up on the shelf, it might be given to a friend that
Mhm.
needs a roof of that owner. Um, the book also sets you apart as an authority level. You don't normally write a book your first, second, third year into a
Right.
new industry. After about 5 or 10 years, you write a book. So that's already speaking levels to the owners of apartment complexes or churches or daycares. And then there's styles of knocking or going into those churches or daycares that I like to use when I go into like a daycare or a church with my book or my marketing material.
Hmm.
I kind of let them know in how I talk. I say, hey, I like to look at churches and daycares. Those are my primary target roofs whenever hail hits because they
Hmm.
speak to the communities. And normally I leave a few books behind. If anybody in your direct daycare community or church community is having trouble with roofing or insurance, give them my book. They can read up on some stuff, look us up online, and then hopefully find us. And the book's been kind of like a game changer on knocking doors, but then it also helps you with setting yourself aside apart from others with getting on podcasts like these, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And it also helps in networking. People will introduce you and let you speak in front of network groups because you wrote a book. And so it's a big piece of authority level. I've kind of gone away from promoting my company, more so promoting the book and letting the
Yeah.
book grab me business.
No, that's real. One of the things that are the motivating factors behind an event that I'm launching this summer on July 12th, Building Great Sales Teams event is because whenever I'm speaking at other people's events or I'm doing, any kind of speaking in front of people, all of a sudden I get more calls and more messages about my services. It just works that way when you build that authority like that. So I can imagine the book being a big part of that. So
The
what would you say to the commercial roofers right now that maybe have your knowledge, have your experience, and can write a book like this, but I know what they're thinking in their head. Sean already wrote the book. Why would I write another one?
so I mean, you can always niche out.
Hmm.
You can write a book. Maybe your favorite commercial roof is warehouses.
Okay.
And so you can focus in on that warehouse relationship, or maybe you really like low income apartment complexes. And that could be you're writing. So when I wrote this book, I was thinking about a particular customer,
Okay.
and that was kind of like the baseline of the book. I always thought of this hero customer, and I was the sidekick, and I was going to help this hero beat the villain, and the villain
Hmm.
was bad roofers. We got to
Yeah.
stop those bad roofers in their tracks. And
Is that
so
is that how you wrote the book, or was it more, like, informational? You wrote the
that's
book
how
like that?
That's kind of it. Well, it's very informational, but the
Okay.
mindset behind of like where'd we get all this thought process? We were thinking of it kind of like a hero villain story to
Mhm.
write the book, but then we're thinking of it in roofing and who's the hero, who's the villain,
Yeah.
and then what is this villain doing that's so bad? He's losing a bunch of apartment owners millions of dollars in AC money and siding money. So that's pretty much. I think anybody that wants to write a book, and I would say commercial roofer, anybody that has a business, I think it
Mhm.
will set you apart in the. And I think almost all business owners, they something inside of them. I feel like they want to write a book at some point.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I couldn't agree more. We all have that inside of us, and I'm I have no excuse because one of the other masterminds that I'm a part of, it's literally in the playbook of building your machine, right? Is writing a book. So why I haven't done it yet, I'm giving myself a hard time right now. And especially since what I've noticed is I do have a niche service that I provide where a lot of people are like sales trainers or marketing specialists. Mine is all around building great sales teams, and why I haven't written the book yet, I have no excuse. I got to get it done for sure. I
well,
gotta
just get.
Go ahead.
Hopefully this is good motivation,
Yeah,
and definitely you can always hit me up for any extra motivation or tips on the book writing. Or
I
I
appreciate
had
that.
a lot of help with writing the book. Mine books aren't all like with your head down writing with a pencil 50 hours
Mhm,
at the time. They can be, but we did a lot of this book writing with interviewing style back and forth
very cool.
on the same topic, and then we would format for a week between the next week's interview, and we did that for about a year. I interviewed with a business coach, and it was a pretty awesome experience overall. And I plan to do it again. I plan to write another book. I just haven't. I really love this book and everything that it's doing for me so far. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of just writing this one right now. And then life as well, having my third kid.
Mhm.
Uh, so I'm a little jam packed on stuff, but
I can imagine, it's funny you said that about the interview style writing the book because you know, part of what I'm doing for my clients is we're building out learning management systems. So whenever a new sales rep comes on, they get assigned a username password to the learning management system, which a very basic one is the back end of Go High Level. They've got memberships and products in there, right? And you can add in videos and documents to walk your sales reps through training before they ever come in the company. And so, but a lot of my clients have a problem with getting in front of the camera like we are right now and just spitting out the game on how to sell their product. And so, what I've been doing is obviously I'm helping them with the structure of their pitch. And so, I come on and I do it podcast style. And so, basically, I walk through the structure. This is why we do it this way. And then I ask them questions about, okay, what do you like to do during your intro? Or what kind of questions do you like to ask during qualify? And it creates this conversational training. So when a sales rep comes in and looks at it, it's very natural. You know what I mean? It's hey, he's being interviewed by this consultant, and they're walking through the script, and I'm able to learn this way. It's more of there's more of a storyline to it than just information coming at you straight. And we get to add in stories about I remember one time I was doing my intro and this crazy lady in a moo came over in the middle of my intro, and you get to do stuff like that and make it interesting and fun. But it's been working out really well for the training videos that we load up for 'em. So that's kind of interesting that you did it that way.
I think maybe it's all about the like. I mean, it's nervous being on this camera right now, but it's
Mhm.
like kind of like the prep before getting on camera, just telling yourself, "Hey, people do want to see me. Uh,
Yes.
people want to hear me, or I got some value to share." But then also, it's just like, "Hey, you got to get out and do it." And then their interviewing style makes it really easy. And if you think
Mhm.
about it in a approach of like, hey, how can I teach somebody to help them along with their problems that I'm trying to solve?
Yeah.
Is is my thinking with it.
Yeah, I like to think I'm an expert value extractor. When I hear something and I'm like, "Hey, my audience needs to hear more about that," I'm all over it. I'm all over it for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Okay, so you've got 4.8 stars and 76 reviews. All right, that's a pretty solid average, especially in something like commercial roofing. I know some of these may be residential as well, but in construction in general, 5-star reviews are hard to come by because there's so many things that can go wrong, whether it be materials, shipments, labor, subcontractors, just so many things. How do you feel like you accomplish this, and what's, I guess, a good structure in order for our listeners to accomplish it as well?
I try to so bad stuff does happen, like we mess up on jobs, we get job delays, all sorts of stuff happens, but we are sympathetic. Like we answer the phone when some angry customers, when
Hmm.
somebody's angry and they call me, I don't just automatically just try to like get defensive. I try to listen and just
Okay.
like breathe it in and get in their shoes.
Hmm.
And then I think about like, hey, what are the big issues admit that you did some wrongdoing, because
Yeah.
I've had a few 1 stars on there, and I've gotten some of them I kept. Like we tried to get the customer to change by doing everything we could, refunding pretty much every part of the job. But the I mean, to you have to have a strategy to get more reviews.
Hmm.
So basically, you got to hunt reviews like they're treasure, and
Yeah.
you do a good job. There's ways to set yourself up for a review. You can, after the job, you can call the customer and say, "Hey, we hit it out of the park with this. We think we saved you a lot of money on X, Y, and Z. We got you a new shingle, beautiful paint job. Everything's looking so great right now. I live off of reviews. Do you mind leaving me an awesome review online? I'll send you a link."
Hmm.
And that's how we get most of our reviews, is we hunt for them, and we try to ask for the review. Um, and most of the time we get a 5-star review if we gave 5-star service, I think, or if we gave 4-star service and then made it right by, like, saying, "Hey, we messed up on this little part.
Hmm.
Let's let's make it right by something." And sometimes it might be like you send a landscaping guy over there to fix up their landscaping because your roofing crew didn't pick up all the nails as great as
Yeah.
they should have. It's kind of owning up on your mistakes and making sure you make all of them right, um, and then not getting defensive online on when you make a mistake, or when one of your teammates make a mistake. I've had 1-star reviews for driving bad,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and it's just like you call them up and they're just happy that you called them up and you listen to them. They changed the review to like a 3 or 4. I think I
Mhm.
had one that was a 1-star that changed to a 4-star because I called her up and I listened to her. And that was from a non-customer. So I'll take a 4-star.
That's awesome, man. And the work that goes into it too. I think that's one thing you didn't hear was that Sean pays for reviews. You didn't hear that he's dangling gift cards in front of them, or trying whatever he can to incentivize them to give reviews. It's just, hey, the customers that leave reviews, well, one, you prompt them when you wrap up their business, but two, the customers that leave reviews, if there's any room for improvement, you're in there. You know what I mean? You're getting in there and figuring out what you can do to create that improvement. And I don't think I even realized that you could change a review. I didn't know that. Like, I guess
Yeah.
through Google, you go back through Google, you sign in, and you can actually go back to the review and change it.
I don't know how they do it, but
Okay.
we've had multiple ones, and I would say I think I learned that first from my old business partner. He cut somebody off out of Costco eating pizza, and the lady left him a 1-star review, or us a 1-star review, and he calls her up and he's just like, "I am so sorry. My kid was yelling in the back. I just shoved some cheese pizza in my mouth."
Yeah.
She started laughing and she was like, "I'm so happy you called me back." And a lot of customer companies just, they don't care, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that we just. I mean, I like to show that we care, to our employees, to our customers, and everything. And I think that sets us apart.
There's a few things I want to take from this, make sure that the listeners understand. The first one is empathy. That was your first response. The first thing you gotta be is empathetic to whatever's going on, because you have no idea. You may have just cut them off. One of your drivers may have just cut them off, but they also, you know, their wife got mad at them that morning. Their kid got in trouble in school, and now they just found out they got to go out of town for work. And then you cut them off. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so you were just the one thing they could do something about. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah,
So
sometimes you're just the one thing. So call them up, be empathetic, have a listening ear, and I think that makes all the difference in the world.
I think just you calling them back is half of the battle,
Yeah,
and then being empathetic and like listening to them, letting
mhm.
them have their, like, uh, their
Grace.
let them have their rant, and then just tell them that you understand and that you want to do better. And then honestly try to make some changes so that you don't cut somebody off while eating pizza again.
100%.
And you should be good. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
So,
I think also you learn these lessons through a lot of like bad, like I learned a lot of my good lessons through hardships or through
mhm,
failures. So I'm always one to like kind of like change the mindset really quick when I have a failure to, hey, what can I learn from this mistake that I just got myself into? And
mhm.
then, or when I succeed on something really big, I'm like, okay, how do I do that again faster? And
Yep.
so, and then I I do a lot of the with the reorganization that I was talking to you before this call on.
Mhm,
Basically, we had a lot of we were growing really fast in my company, and it felt like I expanded the team too fast, and I had invited or attracted some of the wrong people or some people that were good for the start, not
mhm.
good for the next level. And so during all that reorganization, I had to like admit to myself where I was so wrong as a leader and where I failed myself.
Mhm.
And honestly, I read like 30 books, like
Wow.
Audible books. I didn't read them, I listened to them. Books and
Yeah.
books and books and books. And I was failing at a lot of different things, at my marriage, at my work, at like it was just a cluster of like, and then I just like kind of read these books and got into the spirit of like, hey, I need to get core values. I need to
Yeah.
hire and recruit people and fire by core values. I need to live myself by them so that people
Mhm.
will follow me and I'll attract more people that I want to attract, not people that I don't want to attract. So it was all this like 2 years of growth, and it just I came out like I feel like a champ after being
Yeah.
beat for a while and learning a lot of hard lessons. But that's what a lot of business owners do for the first 5 years, I think.
Yeah. And some of them don't learn from it like you did, you know? And I was in business for 12 years before I had that realization that you're talking about. And it did. It took me 2 years to really purge all the things that weren't serving me anymore, you know? And but I know exactly what you're talking about. Being willing to go through the pain and the sacrifice and the down season in order to do business the way that you want to do business and that makes your soul feel good at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? It's different, right? Like everybody expects, because core values and living by them and hiring and firing by them are a very, very talked about thing in the spaces that you and I are in, especially in networking groups and masterminds on stages. It's very, very common to talk about these things because they're responsible for a lot of success. But people think that it's instant and it's not. It takes years, especially in an organization like yours has been around for a while, as well as you create this rubber band effect where, all right, Sean is growing and developing, but is the rest of his team, and he's encouraging the rest of his team too, and like trying to lift them up. A lot of times they don't want to be lifted up. And so, is that something similar that you went through?
That's something similar. Basically, you hit a plateau of your growth, I would
Mhm.
say,
Yeah.
and some people want to keep continuing to grow with you, and then some people don't see the vision anymore,
Hmm.
and they want to grow their own way, and it's better for both parties to figure that out quick,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, rip it off like a band-aid. Don't hold on to it. I mean, Traction was a good book where it talked
Hmm.
about like they've kept a guy for 18 months that they
Yeah.
wanted to let go, and they knew was like kind of causing a lot of issues with the company. They let him go, and the average effect that it has on your emotions is 36 hours.
It's real.
It's
So when you can finish work at the end of the day and be present with your family and your spouse or your softball team or whatever you're doing, and you don't carry it with you because you're in alignment at work, you're in alignment in your business, and everything, you're in a flow state essentially. Like, I think that's what our whole life is kind of like we're trying to do, is get into these flow states around, family, finances, um, our schedules, our work. Um, and it's very difficult to do, but when you get there, it's worth every dollar you lose along the way. You know what I mean? It's worth every person you lose. It's worth every, fun thing that you thought was fun, you know what I mean, that you get rid of, it's worth all of that. So
I would say so.
100%. All right. So last last couple of questions here. You've wrote the book, so that's a big legacy play right there. Your family, your kids, anybody that ever hears about your company or anything will always have that to look to, right? What does legacy mean to you, and what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I think legacy is really leaving an impact behind, like somebody that you know you want to leave. Like I don't. It's not so much the money. It's more of like, hey, how many people did you impact, or
Mhm.
how heavily did you impact people? How many lives did you change? Is not how many, but how, like, what
Deep.
did you do along the way, and how people remember you is bigger to me than how much you're leaving behind. I feel like if you do all those other things, you're going to be able to leave behind the money too,
Yeah.
not just the good feelings. Like they're going to be like, that was a good dad. And
Mhm.
now, we can live our life like he set us up in a way where we could live our life without him. That's what I feel like a legacy is like building your family up so that you can walk, like someday you can walk away, go to heaven, and they'll be fine and dandy,
Mhm.
and like take on from there. So
Yeah, because you instilled the values in them that you were talking about. It's not just in your business and in your personal life too. And one of the things that you said earlier in the conversation was be an example of those versus saying them is one thing. It's easy for us to get up on stage or in a book, say we have these values, you know what I'm saying? But our kids see more than anyone else besides our spouse, our kids see whether or not we're setting that example. So they're the ultimate judge in my mind of
well,
whether we live
and
those values or not.
And they are the legacy. I mean, they're the example. Like they're gonna be the direct replica of if you were
Mhm.
good or bad or great
Yeah.
dad. I feel like that hit me hard one time. Somebody sent me a message and was like, "Happy Father's Day. You're a direct reflection of your kids, or your kids are a direct
Right.
reflection of you." And I was like
Yeah.
thinking about it, and I was like, "Man, that is powerful." So I better be a better dad, and I'll have better, like more better kids to, they'll just cooperate better, be better, outstanding citizens. So
Yeah. It's it's crazy because, and I don't know about you, but my parents weren't a good example. You know what I'm saying? So I try to do the opposite of whatever they did as much as I could, but that's the exception and not the rule, unfortunately. If most people's parents aren't a good example and then they don't end up being a good example, and
yeah,
um
that,
the cycle is continued.
it, it's
Awesome,
hard to
brother.
get out of that cycle. I would say,
100%. I find myself getting sucked back into it all the time. But now I have these bumper guards. Like in bowling, when you roll the ball down, you got the bumper guards. I now have bumper guards in the way of me repeating those cycles. And so there's these little things that remind me of my values and of to stay on that path. So that's a
that's
that's a big
awesome.
part of it too. All right, brother. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. What I would recommend for my listeners is 100% go follow Sean and definitely get a copy of his book, and then yeah, follow his example. You know, and write that book. Definitely put those core values in place. And where can they follow you at, Sean?
They can follow me on Facebook is where I'm most active, and then they can get a copy of my book on my website, brexteriors.com.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks
All right,
a lot.
let's get building, y'all.
Okay. Thanks. Have a great day.